There are cases I remember because they were tragic. There are cases I remember because they were violent. And then there are cases I remember because they made me question whether I actually understand the world at all. This is one of those cases.
I must have stared at that sketch for nearly 5 minutes. The resemblance was undeniable. The narrow face, the sunken cheeks, the expression that somehow managed to look completely emotionless and intensely focused at the same time. Most disturbing of all were the eyes. The witness who helped create the sketch had written a note beneath it. His eyes looked like he knew exactly how I was going to die. I remember reading that line several times. It sounded dramatic, the sort of thing people say when fear distorts memory. But after everything that followed, I stopped dismissing statements like that. I hardly slept that night. Every creak outside my motel room sounded amplified. Every passing shadow seemed suspicious. Twice I got up to check the window. Twice I saw nothing. By morning, I felt ridiculous. I was a crime journalist, not a ghost hunter. There had to be an explanation. And explanations usually started with people, not legends, not rumors. People. So I decided to track down the witness who helped create the sketch. According to old records, his name was Walter Briggs, retired school teacher, 78 years old, still living in Briars Hollow. Walter's house sat at the end of a gravel road surrounded by towering pine trees. The place looked neglected, not abandoned, just forgotten. When he answered the door, I immediately noticed something strange. The old man seemed nervous before I even introduced myself, as though he'd been expecting someone or fearing someone. The moment I mentioned the sketch, the color drained from his face. He invited me inside without another word. His living room was packed with books. History books, newspapers, old photo albums, boxes of documents stacked against the walls. Walter listened quietly as I explained why I was there. Then he asked a question. "Have you seen him yet?" I hesitated. "I think so." Walter closed his eyes. His hands began trembling. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, he stood and retrieved an old photograph from a drawer. The picture appeared to be from the late 1980s. A group of people standing outside a church. Families, children, town residents. Walter pointed toward a man standing near the back. My stomach tightened. It was him. The same face, the same expression, the same dark coat. Exactly the same. Not younger, not older. Exactly the same. The photograph was over 30 years old. "Who is he?" I asked. Walter stared at the photograph. "Nobody knows." "That's impossible." "I know." He sighed heavily. "The first report started long before I was born." I thought I'd misheard him. "What do you mean?" Walter walked toward a shelf and removed an old newspaper. The paper was fragile and yellow with age. Its date stopped me cold. October 1947. A grainy photograph accompanied a story about a missing local hunter. Standing in the background of the image was a familiar figure. The same man, the same coat, the same face. No difference. Not one. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "That's not possible." Walter laughed bitterly. "That's exactly what everyone says." Over the next 2 hours, Walter showed me dozens of photographs, wedding pictures, parades, community events, funerals, school gatherings. The mysterious man appeared repeatedly, decade after decade, always in the background, always watching, always unchanged. And there was another pattern. Every photograph featuring him had something else in common. Within a year of the image being taken, someone in the photograph disappeared. Not always immediately, sometimes months later, sometimes almost a year, but always, eventually. The police never found a connection. Walter believed there was one. I asked why nobody released the information publicly. His answer surprised me. They did. What happened? No one believed them. Before leaving, Walter handed me a notebook. It belonged to his father. The journal documented disappearances dating back to the 1930s. According to the entries, witnesses repeatedly described encounters with a tall stranger who seemed to appear before people vanished. The descriptions never changed. Neither did the outcome. Missing, missing, missing. Page after page, year after year. One entry caught my attention. It described a young woman named Eleanor Pierce. Unlike the others, she survived. Barely. The journal included her address, or what remained of it. A nursing home 30 miles away. I drove there immediately. Eleanor was 92 years old. Her memory faded in and out. At first, she couldn't remember why I was there. Then I showed her the sketch. Everything changed. The elderly woman froze. Terror flooded her face. Genuine terror. The kind that doesn't disappear with age. The kind that never leaves. "He found me," she whispered. My heart began racing. "Who?" "The man." She stared toward the window. "He always comes back." For the next hour, she told me a story that sounded impossible. In 1958, she was 19 years old. One night while walking home, she encountered a man standing beside the road. He asked for directions. His voice seemed normal. His appearance wasn't. Something felt wrong. Eleanor couldn't explain why. She walked away. Over the following weeks, she continued seeing him. Different places, different times. Always watching, always silent. Then people around her started disappearing. Friends, neighbors, co-workers. One by one. Eventually, she became convinced he was responsible. One evening, she confronted him, asked who he was, asked why he kept following her. According to Eleanor, he smiled. The first and only time she ever saw him smile. Then he said, "I'm waiting." "Waiting for what?" she asked. He replied, "For you to notice me." The following night, her entire family vanished. Mother, father, brother, gone. No evidence, no explanation. Authorities suspected foul play. Nothing was ever proven. Eleanor fled Briars Hollow the next day. She never returned. Until now, I asked why she thought she survived. Her answer haunted me. Because I looked away. That evening, I returned to my motel, carrying more questions than answers. The rational part of my mind fought desperately against the conclusions forming in my head. Immortal stalkers didn't exist. People couldn't remain unchanged for 80 years. There had to be another explanation. There had to be. Then I noticed something taped to my motel door. A photograph. My photograph. Taken earlier that day while I was leaving Walter's house. Someone had been watching me. On the back was a handwritten message. "Stop looking." For the first time since arriving in Briars Hollow, I considered leaving. I should have. Instead, I stayed. That night, I finally discovered the truth. Not supernatural truth, human truth. And somehow, it was worse. A retired detective agreed to meet me secretly. He revealed information buried for decades. The disappearances weren't random. They were connected to a criminal network operating throughout the region for generations. Victims were being abducted, trafficked, murdered. Their disappearances disguised through fear, rumors, and local legends. The mysterious man? A symbol, a manufactured ghost story. Each generation of criminals used the same disguise, same code, same appearance, same stories. The legend protected the operation. People chased myths instead of suspects. It was brilliant and horrifying. But there was one problem, one detail the detective couldn't explain. The photographs. The oldest images predated the criminal network itself, some by decades. The next morning, I visited the town archives. I found the original negative from the 1947 newspaper photograph. Authentic, untouched, no forgery, no manipulation. The man was there, exactly as he appeared in every later image. For the first time, I felt genuine fear, not because of the criminal conspiracy, because something remained unexplained, something impossible. I left Briars Hollow that afternoon. The criminal network was eventually exposed. Several arrests followed. Families finally received answers. At least some of them. The official case was closed. Most people considered the mystery solved. I tried to do the same. For months, I convinced myself the stranger was merely coincidence. A recurring face. A trick of perception. Nothing more. Then, 6 months later, a package arrived at my apartment. No return address. No note. Inside was a photograph. A recent photograph. One taken outside my building. At night, the image showed my bedroom window. And standing across the street, watching it, was the man from the sketch. The same face. The same coat. The same expression. Exactly unchanged. Exactly impossible. On the back was a single handwritten sentence. "You noticed me." Long pause. That photograph sits locked inside a safe to this day. I've shown it to experts. Investigators, photographers, nobody can explain it. Maybe there is an answer. Maybe there isn't. All I know is this. Sometimes, very late at night, I wake up with the feeling that someone is watching me. And when I look toward my window, I never quite manage to convince myself that the figure standing across the street isn't real.